You can ask any Airbnb host you know, the industry is not easy anymore. But somehow, these hosts have survived. They've got profitable Airbnb businesses. So this video is 10 business tips that you can steal from the smartest Airbnb hosts that I know that have survived the Airbnb bust. And you can use them in your business if you feel like your business isn't so easy anymore too. My name's Sean. I've been a business owner for 20 years and an Airbnb host for about 11. I've made a few bucks in this space, so some of these tips will be mine, and I'll be a tour guide for you to help you bridge the Airbnb-related information into your business. So let's strap in. Tip number 1 for you is how important packaging is, because packaging for you is the first impression of a product. And Airbnb hosts have a unique relationship to packaging that you can learn from. The Airbnb platform curates listings and photos, and without ever seeing the product, you have to spend a lot of money on staying somewhere. Lately, there's been a lot of anti-Airbnb media, even from Hilton, making us feel like that hosts are untrustworthy or inconsistent. Airbnb hosts have survived by proving their way through this industry. And one of the primary ways they achieve this is through packaging. After the COVID boom, you may remember how real estate investors started putting properties into the Airbnb space. They were nice, big, expensive properties, but they were plain. Really no packaging or design. We call them global gym properties. And Airbnb hosts adapted by trying to get inside of the customer's head. What is it that they're hoping to experience with my product? Not just to stay, but to experience. Airbnb hosts who survive today have adapted their products to be experiential. And your packaging can also be experiential as well. Most luxury brands adopt this approach. It's what you see, it's what you feel, it's what you smell when you interact with a product. But even if you're not a luxury brand, we can learn from Tropicana's mistake. In 2009, they removed their orange straw logo from their packaging. And that mistake led to them losing 20% of their sales in just a couple of months. And remember, Tropicana sells inside of a grocery store, in person. Something about that photo communicated expectation to the buyer. The same way, Airbnb hosts have adapted their photography on their listings to signal expectation of value or experience to the traveler, where these global gym properties do not. If you can line up your competitors on a computer screen and look at their branding, you may be able to identify what they're trying to signal to a stranger to get them to make that purchase through the computer screen. And because we live in a post-Yelp world, any product that someone gets after they've paid you money, they've given you their trust, and they're waiting for product, when they get that product, you better not let them down with the packaging. When they pull up to the front door of the Airbnb and open that door, when they get the packaging and do their unboxing, when your restaurant plates the food and brings it in front of a guest, that first impression is over half of how someone will review your product when they're done interacting with it. Tip number 2 is for you ambitious types who want to scale a real big business. If you want to scale a business, you're going to have resource bottlenecks, which means it's going to be in your best interest to create self-help resources or a competency halo for your consumer base. You'll see that Airbnb did this for their hosts and for their guests, where they have their own Reddit-style community where people can ask questions and get answers. Any big company that you see, especially in the tech space, will have self-help videos and tutorials and all sorts of stuff. Even the rise of AI chat support. But Airbnb hosts learned through failure how fragile this was. There were too many hosts from the real estate world that wanted to make their investments passive. They wanted to automate and delegate away everything so they could just collect a check, like a regular real estate investment play. But the problem with hospitality is it's a high-touch industry, and real estate investors failed to give the humanity that hospitality requires. And so many Airbnb hosts went out of business for this exact reason. Automating away customer experience, they got negative reviews, which downcycled them in algorithms, and they could no longer win the bookings on these OTAs. These online travel agencies are basically like Amazon or eBay, but they can choose not to show your product if guests aren't happy. There's also a company called HomeJoy that failed for this reason as well. No product support, no customers. Moral of the story, big picture, is it's more than just the customer that you did not support that you lose. You're losing future customers because this customer is no longer a testimonial and they might even become your enemy online. In my community, I tell hosts that I talk to that we want to be more generous as we scale, overspend on support resources, and then slowly give back that autonomy to guests at scale when they want to take it from us. They literally have to take their autonomy from us because we want to make sure that we don't drop the ball as we scale. If you have an endless supply of customers that you only touch once because you're a pizza place in Naples, Italy, fine. You may not need to give so much love and support. But if you have a finite customer base, like a small amount of businesses that you service, over-servicing is the best defense for your brand and can become a competitive advantage. Tip number 3 is you can work with what you've got in really novel ways. Novelty sells. There are hosts who have a property. They've adopted it, they've inherited it, they've come across a property, and they have to find a way to make it work. They can't just change it out. For example, in the real world, there's a coffee shop called the Donut Vault that I used to go to in Chicago, back when I worked in the newspaper industry, saving newspapers from going out of business. They had less than 12 square feet of internal space, and that's why they named themselves the Donut Vault. You walked into a door, shoulder to shoulder with the wall, you got your coffee and your donuts, and you left. It was literally like a vault. Good marketing. There's a coffee shop in Milwaukee called Collectivo, used to be a Terra. They would pick up properties that were architecturally interesting, but maybe didn't have a lot of space too. They have 4 or 5 tables at the top of this concrete silo of a well, and you can look down to the bottom of the well. Not a lot of chairs, but those chairs have a ton of value. And the smartest Airbnb hosts that I know use these quirks. They'll take a property that's old and has exposed brick or wood in the ceilings or really odd floor plans, and they will lean into those oddities of a property because Airbnb hosts do understand that novelty truly sells. One of one properties sell on a website where there's hundreds of the same stuff. Imagine you're competing against 500 hotel rooms that all look the same, and then yours could look different. That's why here at this Airbnb, my property is orange. It just jumps off the page. Novelty and character sell. Mr. Beast has referenced this as the purple cow effect. Sometimes you cannot help but to notice something because it's so strange and different. If you have a problem selling a product, stop trying to fit into an industry standard, take a contrarian approach, a very loud, brave, unapologetic one, and see if you can find some customers that fall in love with your take. And that novelty is a type of influence. Robert Cialdini has 6 principles of influence, and scarcity is one of them. So if you look nothing like your competitors' products, you can charge way more money, just because you are the purple cow. And this leads to number 4, which is that price is subjective, but not in the way that a lot of business owners think. Price is subjective in the way that our prices are determined by whatever our customer thinks that they should pay. There's a lot to this. We could talk for a day and a half in a private workshop. Maybe one day we will. But for the sake of this example, let's treat business like a game of incomplete information. I, as an Airbnb host, know how much it costs to hold and operate this property, and I could divide that into daily increments. So I know my holding costs are going to be slightly over $100 a day. And I could arbitrarily mark that up 2.5x and charge $250. But there's so much more opportunity for me to get more than $250 a day if I tell the right story, if I market it the right way to the right customer who has a certain desire or need. Just like a gentleman who buys a bunch of bottles of water at Costco, goes in front of a stadium and flips them for $3 a bottle, he's making a huge markup because he positioned his product at the time when people needed water the most. The World Cup is coming to so many cities in 2026, and for those moments of time, people will 10x what they charge for their Airbnb properties. This concept of dynamic pricing, or price discrimination even, where a host will sell at one price on Airbnb, but they'll sell at a different price on VRBO or Booking.com. These prices can change per marketplace, per season, per guest group size, per consumer archetype. If you take a flat approach to your price without nuance, without understanding your customer, you're losing so much value capture. And I will argue that any smart business needs to understand where we can raise our prices, because there will be times that sometimes we need to drop our prices. In the Airbnb space, a lot of hosts that have failed are ones that refuse to go below a certain price. Like I said, I can identify that this property has $100 and something daily holding cost. And if I refuse to go under $150 per day, for example, because my daily prices are higher than that, I could still collect $0 for the day. I need to recognize that my inventory expires, just like a grocery store, just like a restaurant, just like a concert venue, tickets for the show. Anything that you don't sell becomes $0 of value when that day becomes yesterday. If you have expiring product, I'd like you to look up a phrase called contribution margin. It runs the show here in the Airbnb space. And even though you only collected 40% of what you thought you should collect, collecting more than zero beyond your incremental costs still contributes to your total end of month or end of year profit. Any day that you goose egg or any product that you don't sell that you have to throw away is an entire loss, where if you're smart, you can just take a partial loss. Some companies, Walmart, even build business strategies around this called a loss leader. They'll go into a city and they'll sell produce at a lower cost than their competitors, which cause those competitors to throw away their produce that they did not sell. So the competitors lose 100% and Walmart only loses 20% or 15%. It's brutal. And it's driven a lot of small businesses out of business. And that's why Walmart used to have so much backlash when I was a kid whenever they came into a new market. Tip number 5 will save you from a total breakdown situation one day. Airbnb hosts have had to learn to build redundancies quietly in the background of their business. When a guest arrives to a property, there's a front door code that they punch in 4 to 6 digits and the door should open. But sometimes the door doesn't open because the batteries are dead or something. So that host has to plan in advance for that potentiality and keep an analog key somewhere in a lockbox near the front door, or to have a second door that someone can access, or to have someone nearby to help. This is an example of a redundancy. Now, in performance-based businesses like short-term rentals, there will need to be redundancies for the flow of your value delivery. In many businesses, redundancies with suppliers is the takeaway for this. If you own a restaurant or a manufacturing facility and you only can buy chicken or bolts for one vendor, and those vendors get into a car crash, and now all the bolts have chicken in them and you can't buy either, you're going to go out of business because you can no longer manufacture the product that allows you to supply your customer. Unless you're a marketing genius and you advertise robot chicken for the next 3 days. But if you manage redundancies through your suppliers and one lets you down, you have someone else that you can call to fulfill. You'll still have some downtime. There will be some delay, usually, but the best, biggest companies in the world shorten this delay time. Tip number 6 might hurt a lot of egos, but it's a necessary one. And we can talk about the tech space. We obviously are going to talk about the Airbnb space. We can have a bias with what we think our customer wants, and we try to build something to deliver that to them. And when we find out that they don't want it, we double down and say, you're going to take it because it's what I think you want to buy. For example, this orange property, I thought I would reach a different customer type than I normally do. I thought it would be edgy, artistic people who like odd stuff. I've got big pieces of art on the walls and I thought the place was pretty kitsch. But somehow this listing gets a lot of families. There's beanbag chairs in the living room that always have like chicken nuggets under them and stuff like that. The truth is, something that I did not plan for is orange is nostalgic to Nickelodeon. And so I started to lean into that. I've bought family-friendly amenities like cribs and different stuff to further serve the families that come and stay here. That has increased my occupancy. It's increased my daily rate because I've listened to the feedback of the types of people who have stayed here, and I've adapted my product to be more of what people want. Steve Jobs, when he came and saved Apple, he stopped selling all these other products. He really slimmed down to just a few. And they tried to optimize those products for customer fit and expand on the trust that came from customer fit. They built an iconic brand of giving people exactly what they wanted and growing from that. It is so much easier to run a business where you're not wasting money trying to sell stuff that people do not want. So when customers leave reviews or call in for product support or have complaints, listen to those things. For example, in my business, I suffered some huge losses a couple years ago. One is I set up a property, 40 separate apartments in Katy, Texas in a building, and we designed them kind of like trash. It was at this era where we thought that you could just have cheap product and make a lot of money at scale. I thought scale was a hack. Well, it turns out that scale was not, and our product was ugly, and people did not want it. And by the time we learned that lesson, we lost $500,000. If we were looking at the product internally within the company that was really performing versus the product that was not performing very well, we would have never taken that building. But we didn't use our internal data from what customers actually liked to decide if this offer that we got when we were offered this building, if we thought it would work for our business. And this was an extension of a problem we had in our meetings. In our meetings, Haley, the woman that I trained to be my chief operating officer, wanted people to feel good about themselves. So every meeting, we would read one not 5-star review, and we would read one 5-star review. After we lost enough money, I told Haley, we're scrapping that. We will never read a 5-star review in the meetings ever again, because every review should be 5 stars. We are only reading the worst ones from the bottom up until we exhaust any reviews with insights. So go through them first. If they're not just somebody saying something generically negative and unactionable, you can toss that one out. But any negative review with any feedback at all, we're going to go through in the meetings, no matter how long it takes. That feedback in my business has led to changes in the way that we do our design, obviously. It's led to changes in how we stock our properties and how we manage our cleaning teams, which properties we've picked up moving forward and which ones we've said no to. Customer complaints are a gold mine for your business because you're not the only one getting them. But if you're the only company ignoring them, you're going to be the one going out of business. This tip will help you steal customers. This is super cool stuff. You know that Airbnb is this faceless marketplace. Airbnb owns the loyalty of the traveler, and then Airbnb hosts try to bid to win those persons one stay at a time. The return percentage on average where a customer books the same Airbnb again is probably 2 or 3% at best. Airbnb owns those customers. But ever since Airbnb's optics problem over the last couple of years, Airbnb hosts can't just rely on Airbnb anymore for their business. That's a fool's errand. This type of supplier redundancy, where you're only getting customers from Airbnb, kiss of death. Hosts have learned not only to go multi-channel, but also to get direct bookings. And this is the hack for you, my friends. The Airbnb hosts that are stealing guests from Airbnb, that are getting guests to come back and pay them direct, are the ones that have created a brand that seems the most human. The tip for you is to humanize your product or service. Another example in our space is if an Airbnb operator has a placard of whatever housekeeper cleaned that day, they've got a portrait that says, Sean was your cleaner, he likes empanadas, and they put that in the Airbnb home, guest complaints for housekeeping issues goes down when they know who cleaned the property and they feel more connected to the person that cleaned. There's some empathy there. To further this, you might see some companies on Etsy that write handwritten notes and send the handwritten note when somebody sells a craft item or something like that. Retailers and quick service restaurants alike try to have the person at the register be super kind and smiley and human. For example, I'm a huge fan of Buc-ee's. And when you walk into a Buc-ee's, you hear them greet you, welcome to Buc-ee's. And since I road trip west to California, Buc-ee's doesn't exist in California. There's another road stop called Terrible's. And when you walk into Terrible's, they'll say, welcome to Terrible's. And sometimes you can tell when the person at the register has had it up to here with saying welcome to Terrible's, and you can hear it in their tone of voice. If a customer walks into your business for the very first time and someone like me rolls their eyes and goes, welcome to business, you're not going to fall in love with that company. You're going to feel that internal business tension where the employees and the management aren't getting along. It's going to ruin the customer's ability to immerse into the magic of whatever it is that you sell. And Airbnb hosts have learned that guests have had it up to here with Airbnb too. They're using Airbnb, but they don't necessarily like Airbnb. And the host that's more human can say to the guest, I'm not Airbnb. I just happen to have a property on the space. And I love having you as a guest. I'll treat you better than Airbnb ever will. Come stay with me next time. Here's my cell phone number. Give me a call. In this same philosophy, if you serve a customer that can come back repeatedly, you can steal your competitors' customers by simply being more human, more relatable, more emotionally resonant with that customer. There are tons of businesses out there that are just in it for the money. Be the company that's not in it for the money, and you will win every time. Customers can smell that. They really can. Tip number 8 will make you a better copywriter and keep your reviews really high. There's this phrase, under promise, over deliver, that's trash. In hospitality, if we try to under promise and exercise too much caution, it builds distrust. It's like a sales guy telling you, oh, we've had customers complain about this and this, but we fixed it. I wasn't worried about anything until the sales guy brought up that there was a problem that they fixed. Why are you telling me that? Why did you have a problem in the first place? Now you've bred all of this distrust. And in our copywriting, we do need to address the imperfections of a product in order to keep our reviews high, but we can't kill that magic, can we? In this space, my favorite Airbnb hosts use a mechanism. They'll say the things you'll love and the things you'll need to know in a list. And then after the things that you need to know, they go back into something positive again. What they've done with this list is they put the customer into a mindset to know the pros and the cons, but they've flavored the pros and cons into such a way that it's going to be neutral at worst. It is disclosery, but since it's a list format, people flow right through it, and then they continue to talk about the positives in the next paragraph. It just lands more softly that way. Many people call this positive, negative, positive format the macaron method. There's other names for it too that are more vulgar. But the playbook for you to follow here is your copywriting can be descriptive, disclose what people need to know, but not be overly cautious and slow down the sale. It can manage expectations, win the sale, and still allow you to over-deliver on the back end. You still want to over-deliver, but not by cutting away from the perceived value of your product on the front end. That will kill your conversion percentage and it will kill your margins on your sales because you'll have to compete on price because you're the cautious guy. Now, there are tricks in copywriting to win trust in this way, though. Let's say that everybody in your industry has a problem. Everybody suffers from it. Like here in the Airbnb space, there's bugs in Texas. There's just bugs. And if you have a property in Texas at a certain season of the year, you'll probably see bugs inside the house. They'll find their way in. And for one Airbnb host to say, welcome to South Arizona here near Yuma, there's scorpions. Everybody has to deal with them, and here's how we approach that. That transparency puts you in a position of trust because you're the only person brave enough to talk about the thing. You are talking about the elephant in the room that everybody knows is there, but you're the only one brave enough to talk about it. This does segue really well into number 9, which is if you have an online business, we have to recognize that in 2025-26, with the rise of AI and social media influencers and deepfakes and everything, we have never had less trust on the internet ever, or in life ever. People are distrusting. And the best Airbnb hosts have built their businesses to enforce trust wherever that they can. And this is by getting inside the customer's head and understanding the things that they're concerned about, the things that would lead to distrust. Some of my favorite Airbnb hosts show photos of the first aid kit in the bathroom, show photos of the fact that they've got female toiletries like tampons and stuff in the bathroom. They show photos of where the fire extinguisher is in the kitchen, composed, of course, into the photo too. It's not just a dry photo of the fire extinguisher most of the time, but it's composed in with the cleaning supplies and everything else. These photos are showing the traveler that there's kitchen supplies, cleaning supplies, safety supplies, all of this stuff. The majority of Airbnb guests make their decisions on just the photos alone. So showing these things, the host is not only advertising that they have this stuff, but they're showing what kind of host that they are. They're showing that they're careful and thoughtful, and they're showing that they're prepared, that they know what they're doing, that they are competent. And that builds trust. If you have a product in a high distrust industry, we need to identify what those causes of distrust are, and we attack them head on. Where most people try to run away from them and try to hide from the distrust and hope that they find a customer who doesn't know enough yet to be distrustful, that is just trying to take advantage of a know-nothing customer. Instead, you can build a forever brand by taking advantage of one of the most pivotal moments of human history right now, which is the AI distrust boom. Build a business based on trust, and you will win customers because they will feel safe with you. If your customers feel safe enough with you because you have integrity as a business, you could probably sell anything at that point, because people are looking for trustworthy sources that they can get the stuff that they want or the stuff that they need without the consequence of dealing with a fly-by-night company who's just out for their money. Trust as a currency is really what I'm saying. And this last tip is the last one you likely ever need before you become wildly successful in any industry. Airbnb hosts had to grow up to realize that you can't succeed in an industry like this that has matured without putting someone else out of business. Business is war. It's a dogfight. Someone's going to lose. If you are being too polite, too kind, because you don't want to rock the boat, you're never going to get anywhere. I'm a coach in the Airbnb space, and I teach my students to do market research to identify the best players in the game, who's making what mistakes, and then to enter a space targeting a loser that they plan on putting out of business. Every property that hits the Airbnb algorithm will re-rank the algorithm, and people will go down that ladder. And far down that ladder enough, someone goes out of business. Someone goes hungry. And we are the ones that put them there. So fall in love with the fight. Be competitive. Be a little bit ruthless, and you're going to go a long way in business. My friends, I hope this video served you well, and this channel is growing. Follow to learn more about how to run a company. I've built 6 separate 7-figure businesses, and I've built them in industries as hard as print media. And please watch this video next if you are a business owner going through a hard time. Thank you so much for watching this all the way through to the end, and I'll see you on the other side.